Prosecutors say that's because she used a gun a lot like this one, almost exactly like this one. It uses these pellets here, as well as a CO2 cartridge, which is then hidden here inside the handle. I've watched a steady stream tonight walk this path here, seeking out names of those they remember who were killed in the Vietnam War. A neighbor across the street heard the young boy's cries around 1:17 in the morning and called 911, but Mr. Liddy was asleep for 3 more hours, then woke up, went to his back door, and noticed his son was missing. Not only is the current extremely strong here, it's also causing several eddies along the river. You can see this counterclockwise formation. That's the current pushing back upstream. And most of these vehicles were left unlocked, a lot like this vehicle you see here, and they took a lot of things. And a lot of them were mainly electronics and cash. You can also see here they took credit cards, laptops, purses, even cell phones. And that damage here is apparent on City Lake Road, which is where I am. This is just north of DuQuoin, a couple miles. Check out this tree here. I also wanted to ask Bockelman, what steps would he take to assure lawmakers and also the public and especially the veterans that these problems that keep recurring on other examinations at the hospital won't keep popping up? That question also was not allowed today.
I came up and I kind of looked, and she was standing there.
Alan Ricks says he never thought he'd be hit by this masked bandit.
We're not on the main stream up around 57 and that, so we didn't really think they'd come by here.
But Airport Inn was the second of 3 hotels investigators say Becky Jo Stodhill tried to rob early Tuesday morning. He says she was carrying a gun that he thought was a 9mm. Police later determined it was a pellet gun. Ricks told the masked robber to get out, slammed the door, and called police.
When she took off, I looked out the curtain, tried to get the car, and didn't see it.
Alan says she quickly left the hotel and hit the road, this time heading west. It's the only way she can go, bound for Carbondale. That's where police say she held up the Comfort Inn and Suites, got cash, and took off. Investigators caught their first look at the masked robber in this holdup on November 20th at the BP gas station in West Frankfort. They could not tell if it was a man or a woman, but noticed the robber knew how to handle a gun.
The way that the suspect was manipulating the gun, that it's a safety technique that's taught to law enforcement military personnel called masking the trigger.
Stodhill worked for the Illinois Department of Corrections from 2000 to 2004. Surveillance video showed this Mitsubishi Eclipse used in armed robberies in Marion on November 23rd. It had a reverse light burned out on the driver's side. Chief Jeff Tharp made sure police and businesses across the region knew what to look for.
The good thing about it is that the public, especially employees and customers of late night hours of these type of businesses, were on a heightened level of awareness.
Carterville officers stopped Stodhill's car on her way back to rural West Frankfort around 2 Tuesday morning. Police found the clothes, pellet gun, mask, and boots used in the crimes stuffed in a trash bag in Stodhill's trunk.
The ironic thing is after she was successful in the robbery, she went to purchase crack cocaine herself and became the victim of a robbery.
A drug addiction Stodhill tells police fueled the crime spree. Janie Goff can get to her home only by boat. She is now returning to dry land with what she can fit on board. This trip, a coffee table, soaked by floodwater.
They should have warned us to get out, to get our stuff out, but we didn't. Whenever I seen it rising, I went to get the stuff out of the buildings and stuff, not out of the house.
Goff has lived in this mobile home for 13 years. Never in that time has the water come close to even entering her home. As she and her neighbors haul out what they can, they add up the losses. The emotion still raw, the water still rising.
I have insurance, but not flood insurance. You can't get it, and nobody here does.
This is Janie Goff's mobile home over here behind me, the brown one. She says when she was notified by officials to get out Monday afternoon, the water was already rising above her knees. Just a few hundred yards away, the Barkley Dam roars. 5 floodgates are open and are expected to remain that way through at least Wednesday.
It's like a really big drop.
Down the Cumberland River a few miles, water now skims under the bridge deck to Samantha Herman's home. She left her home Monday night.
I didn't want to move out of my house. I didn't want the water to get up because I don't like to be trapped in.
Her grandparents called her Tuesday night. Herman says her biggest concern is her family's safety since the waters won't crest for several days.
I have a 9-month-old that the water was going to get over the road where we couldn't get out, and that we needed to stay somewhere for the safety of all 3 of us.
A plan coupled by prayer as uncertainty sets in. Tammy Lloyd buried her grandmother Wednesday in Harrisburg. The entire family understood that Edith Lucas paid for her funeral years ago, but they quickly learned that money is nowhere to be found.
I was in shock. I didn't know what to do.
The family contacted another funeral chapel after calling Gaskins Jones Funeral Home and getting this recording.
You have reached Great Gaskins Funeral Home. Due to personnel situation, if this is a call regarding a death, we ask that you call another funeral home.
I went to Gaskins Jones only to find the doors locked. Investigators say the business closed about 3 months ago. Lloyd has the paperwork to prove her grandmother paid for the funeral. She obtained a copy of the check from 2007 deposited by Gaskins Jones and a copy of the contract with John B. Jones' signature on it. But those investigating the funeral home say they cannot find the money or even a record of the contract. All this while Lloyd is already emotional, dealing with the death of her grandmother.
But to have to turn around and deal with someone taking advantage of her while she was alive, and us having to deal with this type of tragedy as well as her death. It's just unimaginable.
John B. Jones took over Gaskins Jones a few years ago with Greg Meredith of Carbondale as his majority shareholder. Meredith's attorney says his client was left in the dark and only learned of issues at the Harrisburg Funeral Home after calls to him from families. Lloyd has a word of warning for anyone thinking about paying for a funeral ahead of time.
Put it in a separate account set aside in their name with a family member on it, so their services will be taken care of.
Criminal charges are now filed against John B. Jones, the man Lloyd says her grandmother paid in 2007 in order to cover funeral costs. Court documents state Jones failed to put Edith Lucas's money into a trust account or purchase a life insurance policy for Lucas. Marion police are saying very little about what led up to Tina Pickens' death, nor who is responsible at this point. But I have confirmed that her boyfriend was arrested early this morning in Carbondale. Police tape cordons off Tina Pickens' home. A red seal on the front screen door makes sure the scene is still secure. Neighbors say they are too afraid to talk on camera, worried relatives of Pickens may retaliate. But they tell me she was home Wednesday afternoon, getting ready to go to work. That was the last time they saw her. Police say Pickens never made it to work Wednesday. Coworkers at Hyatt Reservations called police, asking them to check on her. At 11:50 Wednesday night, Marion police discovered Pickens dead in her home. Police are not saying how she died, but performed an autopsy Thursday afternoon. Carbondale police say they arrested someone connected to the Marion case early Thursday morning. Williamson County deputies say 47-year-old Patrick Williams was booked into their jail Thursday for violating his bond conditions. This is not the first time Williams has violated his bond. On New Year's Eve of last year, court documents state Williams hit Tina Pickens multiple times, causing swelling to her right eye and a cut to her forehead. He bonded out 10 days later and was ordered to have no contact with Pickens. But 2 weeks after that, he was arrested again for domestic battery and violating his bond conditions. Court records state he slapped Pickens in the face. He was arrested again for contacting Pickens on February 5th and again on June 7th. That time, investigators say Williams was beating on Pickens' front door and provoked a breach of the peace. Williams posted $75 bond on the 28th and returned to Pickens again. And again, police arrested him on July 22nd for pulling and shoving Pickens. He bonded out of jail this past week. Now, investigators are not saying if Williams is actually a person of interest in Tina Pickens' death, only that he has been arrested on violating conditions of his bond. Mark?
Well, Jeff, I understand that you spoke to Tina Pickens just last week.
That's correct, Mark. I did talk to her on the phone, and at the time she had called me because she was worried about her own safety as well as a jeopardized relationship with the police department, as she put it. We'll talk more about that relationship at 6 o'clock, as well as circumstances surrounding another shooting, which involved Pickens and a police officer here at this home 2 years ago.
And Jeff, officers have been to this house before.
They have, Eden, and so have we. This was the scene of a double shooting here 2 years ago this month. In fact, Tina Pickens was shot by her husband right here on these front steps. When police arrived on scene back on September 29th of 2008, Harry Schaff shot a Marion police officer. The 63-year-old Schaff was sent to prison for 50 years. Soon after, Officer Steve Cannon won a $500,000 lawsuit against Schaff. But Tina Pickens called me just last week, saying she was afraid she would lose her house because of the lawsuit. But she said she did not want to speak out because of her relationship with Marion police, which she says was already rocky.